God is not so cheap. An essential subject from Vinipedia. Without the sun we cannot see. We may be very proud of our eyes, but we cannot even see our next door neighbor. People challenge, can you show me God? But what can they see? What is the value of their eyes? God is not cheap. We cannot see anything, not to speak of God, without sunshine. Without sunlight we are blind. At night we cannot see anything, and therefore we use electricity because the sun is not present. One who has no idea what God actually is thinks that any form he imagines or any rascal he accepts can be God. This acceptance of cheap gods or incarnations of God is actually atheism. It is to be concluded, therefore, that those who worship demigods or self-proclaimed incarnations of God are all atheists. They have lost their knowledge, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20. Kamaste terach taje and prapadyanti nyadivat. Those whose minds are distorted by material desire surrender unto demigods. Srila Prabhupada's books, lectures, conversations and letters offer a comprehensive presentation of this essential subject as seen in the Vinicotes God is not so cheap category. An introduction from his teachings is given below in the following 8 quotes. Quotes from Srila Prabhupada's teachings. One who has no idea what God actually is thinks that any form he imagines or any rascal he accepts can be God. This acceptance of cheap gods or incarnations of God is actually atheism. It is to be concluded, therefore, that those who worship demigods or self-proclaimed incarnations of God are all atheists. They have lost their knowledge, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20. Kamaste terach taje and prapadyanti nyadivat. Those whose minds are distorted by material desire surrender unto demigods. Kaitanya Karatam Ta, DLL 10.11. Our first restriction is no meat eating. It is a most sinful act. Meat eating or intoxication, drinking, gambling, and illicit sex. These are the 4 pillars of sinful life. So unless you stop, you break these 4 pillars, how you can think of God? God is not so cheap. The rascal says, you can do whatever you like. I give you. I push your eyes and you see God. You push your nose, you see God. You see. These nonsense things are going on. But God is not so cheap. Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture, 19 September 1972, Los Angeles. If you find somebody who is the richest, nobody is richer than him, then he is God. Then he's God. God is not so cheap thing that in every street, every village, there is incarnation of God. Don't accept that. You must know what is meaning of God. At least we followers of Krishna consciousness, we do not accept such cheap God. The God's description is there in the Sra. Bhagavad Gita Lecture, 19 April 1976, Melbourne. Nobody can become God. God is never made. God does not become. God is always God, not that one is not God, and he becomes God by some mystic yogic power. This theory is going on amongst the MYVDS that by the mystic yoga practice, one can become God. So we don't want such cheap God. They may become God, so-called God, but we are concerned with the real God, Krishna. Krishna, when he was 3 months old, he was God. He did not practice any mystic yoga to kill P10. Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture, 17 June 1973, Mupur. God has become so cheap. There are so many incarnations of God, especially in India. It is a breeding ground of gods, so many. So that means they do not know what is God. They think God is so cheap thing. But from the Stra we understand, from Bhagavad Gita we understand. Bhagavad Gita Lecture, 18 November 1972, Hyderabad. We know what is God in this sense, that our God, when actually he is God. Therefore, at the age of 7 years, he lifted a big mountain on the finger. So we accept this God. When he was young man he married 16,000 wives. These are the unique instances. And why shall I accept a cheap God who cannot provide even one wife? We are not. Because he cannot provide it, he does not marry. So this kind of God we don't accept. Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture, 28 April 1972, Tokyo. You have to become God conscious. Then you will understand what is God. It is not a so trifle thing you ask me and 1 minute you understand God. That is foolishness. You have to study the science of God. God is not so cheap. Bhagavad Gita Lecture, 27 October 1975, Nairobi. Real religious principle means to abide by the laws of the Supreme Lord, God. But they do not believe in God. Everyone is God. I am God. You are God. He is God. Everyone is God. So whatever law you give yourself, that becomes your religion. This is going on. So God is not so cheap that you become God. I become God. He becomes God. Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture, 24 September 1972, Los Angeles.